In April 2019, a devastating fire ravaged Notre-Dame de Paris, one of the world's most iconic landmarks. And less than 5 years later, look at these pictures. Fully restored, at least from the inside, still a bit of work on the outside, but back to its original beauty. So here I am, Anne, the little Frenchie in Big Texas, in front of Notre-Dame, and I am going to take you inside on a tour through this stunningly beautiful cathedral. So if you're enjoying this tour, please give the video a thumbs up button as we walk on the inside. But first, let's go back in time. April 2019, the fire broke out, causing the spire to collapse and severely damaging the roof. French people were watching from the River Seine, crying in front of this landmark going into flame, wondering if it was going to stand and remain. But emergency measures were within hours underway. Firefighters, authorities, they all rushed to secure the building, save some of the precious artifacts. And despite the intense flames, the main structure, including this famous rose, the rose windows, what you just saw here, and many of the precious artifacts were saved. By the end of 2019, a massive scaffolding was erected to protect the cathedral from the elements and prevent further damage. Everyone was unfortunately afraid it could still collapse as it was not stable. And then came the work needed to be done, and to restore the cathedral, money was needed. And people rushed actually from around the world to save Notre-Dame and rebuild it. We had over $1 billion pledged, and not only by the French authorities here, a lot of donors worldwide and from both the public and the private sectors. Notoriously here, some French companies, luxury brands like LVMH, Louis Vuitton or L'Oréal donated quite a lot toward the restoration. But you also had other donations like the American University Notre-Dame donated as well, the same name, and wanted to help. So everybody came together here to try to fund this monumental work that needed to be done. Unfortunately, 2020, the work halted by the pandemic, but it was still time for engineers and architects to conduct their assessment with a focus here on stabilizing the building, preserving the original structure, and carefully removing damaged material. So the main man here driving the whole work actually was a general from the army that Emmanuel Macron entrusted with the work, and he supervised the work. Pretty much, it's a shame because he died, I believe, right before the reopening of the cathedral. But Emmanuel Macron asked to be done within 5 years, and it really was done almost within the time frame, especially given we had the pandemic in the middle. So the restoration work, as you can see in this picture, was massive. The roof and the spire, craftsmen, people, carpenters began working to rebuild the roof using traditional techniques. So we went back in time here. Remember, this was built during the Middle Age, 800 years ago. So they went back to the traditional techniques of the time, and specifically using oak wood to recreate the forest structure of the original. So that was the roof, what burned. That's why it was called a forest, because of all the wood in there. And they used no less than 500,000 oak trees to restore this roof. That's 1,000 tons of timber. Incredible, incredible. And the work progressed. 2023, it was the spire that was completed, including a replica of the rooster that was perched atop the spire since the 19th century. And the goal was to reopen the cathedral in 2024 before the Olympic. I believe it did not happen. It was a bit delayed, and they reopened in December that year. But it did reopen, and right now it is open for visitors. So if you want to visit Paris, you want to see this incredible work, craftsmanship, dedication, collaboration, artists from around the world came. I mean, a lot of money was spent, but many volunteered their time just for the chance to work in this unique piece of history and art. So the cathedral is here, back again, and I would say almost more pretty than before because it's all been restored. Extremely bright. The stone is now white. They made an incredible work. Well worth the visit here if you have the chance to visit Paris. I would recommend to look at it and visit it during the day, where you have the light, especially if it's a sunny day, going through the tinted windows, the glass windows, and reflecting on the stone. It is beautiful. But this being said, I will let you admire the cathedral. When you visit, you enter, it's only one way. So you enter, you go to the left, and you go around. On each side, you have many little chapels dedicated to a saint, with the bigger one, most important, and with the best paintings being in the back of the cathedral. So you really have to go around and spend time, especially in the back. Of course, you can light candles, take your time, but there's a path forward where now they funnel the tourists. You have to reserve online. Space go pretty quickly. They open it 2-3 days in advance. Online, you have to reserve. It is free. It might change over time, but right now there's a high demand to visit. So I would highly recommend, regardless of your religion here, it is very much a historical piece, work of art, architecture, and yes, very beautiful. So I let you enjoy this tour here as we go around the cathedral, and I will put some light music in the background for you to enjoy. I will be back at the end of the video with some impressions.
I am just out of Notre-Dame and it is spectacular. There is no other word to describe the work of art done in there. I mean, whether you're Christian or not even religious, it doesn't matter here. It's a historical piece in the middle of Paris that's over 800 years old that was restored in a way, I mean, putting all its beauty, the colors, the stonework, it's wow. I mean, it's really mind-blowing, which really proves that with a lot of money you can do a lot nowadays. But yeah, it is well worth a visit. I saw it by day and by night, so it's easier to get in on Thursday evening. It's the only evening in the week where it's open, up to 10 p.m. I believe, but starting at 8, it really tunes down and less people. So it's easier to get in. You see quite a lot, but it's not the same as during the day. Especially a day like this, it's very bright, a lot of sunshine, and you have the sun coming in through the glass windows, the tainted glass windows. Some of them are still the original ones in the transept. The roses ones on each side are originals. Well, at least, I'm not too sure whether the originals were put back, but it used to be the originals. If it's not, it's been done with such a good work that it looks like it was the originals. And it's beautiful with the sun shining in. Sometimes on some of the paintings inside, it is, I would recommend to see during a day, during a sunny day. Of course, you can choose. If you're just in Paris for one day, you take what you get. But yeah, it really puts all this in even more colors and beauty. So highly recommend. I hope you enjoyed this long walking tour of Notre-Dame as much as I did. And if you did, as always, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. A lot going on besides travel. I live in Texas, we homestead, so you get a bit of food preservation, some animals, raising, homeschooling with the girls, visit around in Texas, and sometimes when I travel to Paris or elsewhere, you get to see it. So stay tuned. Thank you all for watching.